this season of Epiphany, we're talking all about the ways in which God makes himself manifest. That's what Epiphany means, to be made manifest or revealed or known. You know, I often think, though, if God were really trying to make himself abundantly manifest and known, sometimes it seems like he doesn't do a very good job of it. After all, why are there still so many questions? Why do people still have to question, is there God? Why doesn't he just make himself more manifest? Why not just come right out and make it just so plain and obvious that we could all just agree? Why all this doubt? Well, turns out that God has worked this way from the beginning. God has never made himself so irresistible to the human mind that it would take away our freedom. Rather, the whole experiment that God began with the creation of man is an experiment of love. God could have certainly made creatures that just blindly obey him and do his will. In fact, that's what trees and rocks and even the animals basically all do. They just do what God created them to do. God obviously had something more in mind when he created human beings. Created in God's image and likeness, that means we have a rational mind, an intellect, and a free will. This is a rather risky experiment on the part of God because it means that we can either respond or not. And if we're going to be free to respond or not, it means God cannot overwhelm our intellect or our will, or we wouldn't be free. So yes, God wants to make himself manifest, but he also does it in a way that leaves open the possibility to either accept or reject his manifestation. Just consider the Star of Bethlehem and the coming of the Magi. Whatever you think the Star of Bethlehem was, not everybody saw it. They were capable perhaps of seeing it, but only the Magi said, I think we'll go. I think we'll respond and do something. Now notice when Herod hears about the star from the Magi, he's not lacking in faith. Herod, it says, immediately believes the Magi. He believes the Star of Bethlehem does in fact point to the newborn King of the Jews. It's just that he's afraid. He doesn't accept the Messiah as good. So he too is free, even though he believes the same thing the Magi believe, that a newborn king has come. We are always free. And so even as we hear of Jesus' miraculous healings in the gospel today, he cures a leper, a person full of leprosy, it says. It says, Lord, if you wish, you can make me clean. And he does, and he just cures his leprosy. God can do that. But then it begs the question, as we see Jesus do all these things, all these miracles, who is this Jesus? I think you and I today, 2,000 years after the fact, can take for granted the fact that, well, this is the second person of the most holy Trinity, incarnate in the flesh 2,000 years ago in Bethlehem, now revealed in his human nature to have command that only the divinity can have in his divine nature. Whew! Are you confused? Well, don't be confused. But that's hard. And it took us just hundreds of years after Jesus' time to get that language right. The very first struggle was, who is Jesus? Jesus himself asked his apostles, who do you say that I am? And they were free. They'd seen all the stuff. They'd seen Jesus cure lepers like today. They'd seen him do all kinds of things. Eventually they'll see him raise people from the dead. And eventually they will even see Jesus himself rise from the dead. But even that, Jesus himself tells us, is not enough. Even if someone should rise from the dead, Jesus tells us, if they do not believe Moses and the prophets, that will not even be enough. There is simply nothing that will ever be enough to force us to, without any doubt, accept who Jesus is. The famous little Christmas song, What Child Is This?, is sung about the birth of Jesus. Jesus, from the time he was born, people question, who is this? Was he God when he was born? And eventually the church says, of course, he was always God. He didn't come to be at his birth. He was always God. Well, how do you answer that question today? And keep in mind that if you say Jesus is God, no force has brought you to that conclusion. It means you have used your free will, combined with your intellect, to say that I am convinced. As St. John Henry Cardinal Newman would say, you have given assent to that which cannot be proven. So today, one of the greatest manifestations of the truth of who Jesus is is that there are people who 2,000 years after he lived still believe this and still tell people about it. So today, really, you are the best epiphany of the truths of God. So go out today. Don't be afraid to tell people that you believe. You have come to accept and believe that Jesus is the Christ. And to whom else shall we go, really? If you believe that and you tell others about it, well, you're a manifestation of God. You're an epiphany. So go be an epiphany today. And God bless you.